Right. It's intelligent humor. I mean, it's silly. That's the thing. It's intelligent silliness. And that's what's so surprising about it. But like Life of Brian, when you're watching it, isn't really funny. When you're sitting around talking about it later, is hilarious.
Yeah.
Holy Grail is the same way. Oh, wait. No, that's not supposed to be what it is.
Okay, I am putting this mic down and because my chair's pathetic.
Apparently I copied the link before, or I didn't save or something, because what's on the YouTube, the live stream page, is not what is actually streaming right now. So by the way, Seth, I can't stop watching Pitch Meeting.
I only watch the ones I've seen the movies to. So, but yes, they are.
But there's a gold mine of stuff going all the way back to like X-Men 1, and
Right.
Spider-Man, the 2000. So you can do that safely. But
Oh, yeah.
dude is just absolutely brilliant.
And they put like all the Avenger ones together, and you can like actually. I don't know. I think it's either a playlist or they cut and pasted them all together, so you can watch all of the MCU. It's kind of funny. Super easy, barely an inconvenience.
Yeah. My favorite line so far is in when they're talking about Infinity War, and it's like, wow, you're putting a lot of effort into this villain's backstory. It's really believable. Are people going to be okay with that? And it's just so on the nose. Like the Ant-Man one, I watched it the other day, and all the complaints I've had about Ant-Man, he called out. It's like, it made me feel like he was validating me as a person.
Oh, my God. I hate Macs. I'm sitting here and this pop-up thing says, would you like to upgrade to the new Mojave operating system? And the options are yes or details. There's no.
Well, maybe there's no in the details. It made me feel like he was validating me as a person.
Tell you what, Miles.
I hate Macs.
Don't let Steve Jobs hear you say that.
This pop-up thing says, would you like to upgrade to the new Mojave operating system? And the options are yes or details. There's no.
Well, maybe there's no in the details. It made me feel like he was validating me as a person.
Tell you what, Miles.
I hate Macs.
Don't let Steve Jobs.
I was, I gotta turn you guys up a little. I was much louder than you, but that should be better now. All right. Skype is like that too. The thing about Skype on the phone, if you ever use Skype on Android, it's like impossible to turn off. Skype thinks this app is so amazing you'll never want to turn it off. I don't know that actually in the app there's an option to turn it off. You have to go to like app info in the Android operating system and hit force stop, because they just assume the app is so amazing you would never want to turn it off. Or in the case of Mojave, why would you not want to update? Of course you have to.
Because my audio DAW probably won't work with it. And I'm in the middle of recording a damn podcast.
Well, I think you're really being short-sighted, Miles. Clearly, you need some details.
Let me press yes now. Right. We'll just see how that goes.
You just need some details about how much you actually want Mojave. That's all the details is. It's why you really do want to upgrade.
Oh, of course.
And, if you just listen long enough, get enough no's, you'll finally get a yes. Let's see. Recent notable deaths. Kim Porter. Don't know who that is. Catherine McGregor. Don't know who that is. David Pearson. Don't know who that is. Ron Johnson. Nope. Douglas Rain. Nope. Frank Renzo. Nope. Irvin Williams.
What are you reading?
Newsday.com. Recent notable deaths.
Tell me if my name shows up, would you?
Donna Axum Whitworth. Francis Lai. Bob Nagel Jr. Wally Trippett, I know that name. Bernard Bragg, Brent Taylor, Evelyn Y. Davis, Alexandru Vincentiu, Ramona Ripston, Ramona Chow. We need to talk about their definition of notable. Roy Hargrove, Tony Joe White, Richard Violet Jr., Wanda Ferragamo, Ara Guler, Ray Montague probably, Paul Allen, there we go.
Okay.
Robert Bush, Patrick Baum, Roloff Pick Botha, Jim Taylor. He's wearing a Green Bay Packers uniform, so apparently that's a thing.
Was Botha? He was a head of state, I think.
Okay.
I remember a line from Robin Williams' Night at the Met. Prime Minister Botha White courtesy phone. So apparently he was the last leader of apartheid.
Okay.
So.
Jeff Emmerich. He's a music guy. I recognize that name. Do Moy. Otis Rush. Charles Anzavauer.
Anzavauer. That's okay. He was a singer.
French crooner, an actor known for Marty Balin, Arthur Mitchell, looks like a ballet dancer, Clay Riddle, hockey player. So, yeah, lots of people died recently. Oh, but this is going all the way back to September, so. Oh, Burt Reynolds, died September. So we're going way back. Anyway. I don't know why I clicked on that. Well, yeah, I did, but I don't know why it was so fascinating to me.
Was I right about Botha?
I don't know. I closed the page, but yeah, that sounds right. Sure. I'll go with that.
Come on, man.
And I need to mention here that Georgia has a governor.
Oh, yeah, we got a senator too.
Yeah.
I don't know, Mark. I just found some Georgia ballots behind my house, so we'll might change the count.
We'll talk about this when I start recording, but it's just awesome. So go ahead and start your local recording devices.
Okay, I did click the start button. Took me a moment, but it's going.
All right. And looks like Jindo wasn't able to make the time transition with us.
Yeah, we're an hour later.
All right. I'm going to click over here, and we're going to start now. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the GeekRant, episode 343. Just happy to be here. Recorded... strange emanations coming. I don't know if you heard that, but I definitely heard it. So I'll start over again. Marker. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the GeekRant, episode 343. Just happy to be here. Recorded November 18th, 2018, and brought to you by Element OP Productions. ElementOP.com. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Drive Time Radio for Geeks. I'm your host, Mark, the Sultan of the Soapbox Cockerel. And joining me this week, as always, are your two stalwart co-hosts, Seth, the Gooey Kid Anderson, and Miles, the Aussie-Gineer Wakeham. Hello, gentlemen.
Howdy, Mark, and welcome, faithful Opeites.
Gobble, gobble, geeks.
Yes, it is, in fact, Turkey Week. Giant inflatable things will be being towed down city blocks in the near future.
You know, it is about time we expanded Thanksgiving to be more than just one day. It needs its own, holiday creep.
I think most people take this week off and then turn it into a whole, 9-day extravaganza if you were to go back to last Saturday and run it all the way through the week and back into the following Sunday. It's a good way to get some free vacation.
I work with a number of people who are taking all next week off. My kids are out of school all next week. My wife, who also works in the school system, is out all next week. I will be taking 3 days off, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. So, it is becoming a holiday week.
Yay, go holidays.
Yeah, we used to use it for doing travel overseas. which is not really something very American, for Thanksgiving, but it's a great way to actually find really, really cheap international flights out because everyone's traveling domestic in. So you can kind of avoid it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, one of the busiest travel days of the year will be Wednesday. One of the highest, always a record high in terms of highway fatalities. So that's something to look forward to. Those of you in other countries that have already had your Thanksgiving or don't even know what we're talking about, it's very simple. It's a holiday where we allegedly or nominally give thanks, not necessarily to any particular entity or for any particular thing, just give thanks.
And whenever we say give thanks, that means giving thanks before you gorge yourself in enough food to last a week in the course of a meal, and then you eat dessert on top of that. So that's what we mean by giving thanks in America.
And it does kick off the entire holiday season. So from here on out, it's shop, shop, shop until you drop.
Yeah, we talked about that last week. Black Friday is now Black November, pretty much. We're already seeing things online. It's interesting how we Americans are gifted at commercializing anything, right? So the original Thanksgiving was the Pilgrims at Plymouth Rock who had come to this country to invade the natives and dominate them in whatever, depending on whatever socially proper narrative you prefer this year. But most of them died. Like most of, as in like 80% of them died within the first year. And then when they made it through that first winter and then had a bountiful harvest that fall, they set aside and gave thanks. And because they had just had a bountiful harvest, they had plenty of food. So the holiday literally began with stuffing your face. It's not something we've co-opted to become stuffing your face. That's what it began. But they gave thanks to their God for getting them through the winter and for not letting them starve. And these people who were clerks and baggagemen and servants in the old world became farmers in the new world. And it was not an easy thing for them to learn how to do. Sometime later, it then became a national holiday, and I believe Lincoln wrote the original Declaration, and it was, in fact, a call to give thanks to God, but we don't talk about that now. It's just a day to say thanks for, whatever. But the food is all still there.
Okay, this is just a totally off-the-wall thought, just as a result of your oversimplification, but pretty accurate thing of first Thanksgiving. What if the only reason it was bountiful was because of all the people who had died? So would it truly have been a bountiful harvest if there had been twice as many mouths to feed? Anyway, just a random thought. I don't know why I came up with that while you were talking, but that's what happens when I try to listen to you. Weird stuff pops into my brain.
That's the Thanos philosophy, right? They know only plenty and good because more than half of them died.
Right.
The guy's got a point.
Yep. And oh man, it's too early for the transition, but man, I had a great one for you. So,
well, okay. So just a couple of other notable things that have happened this week. People are dying. Happens every day. In fact, I Googled people who died this week and came up with a long list of people. But the three people who directly impacted my life in one way or another: Stan Lee, of course, the creator of the MCU, died this week at 95. Kind of hard to be mad when a guy, lived to be 95 and, achieved everything he ever set out to be and had an amazing life. So, goodbye, Stan Lee. Roy Clark, if you grew up in the South in the 70s, you know Roy Clark from Hee Haw. And if you didn't, it's probably a blessing. But he was a virtuoso on the acoustic guitar. Arthritis took that from him years ago, but he was still a vocalist extraordinaire and performing up until very recently. And then something that is personally endearing to me, near and dear to my own heart, William Goldman, author and screenwriter, who wrote the book that became my favorite movie of all time, Princess Bride. He also wrote Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. Died this week at 95, 85, and 87, I believe, were their ages respectively. So all of them had pretty good runs.
Yeah, that's true. And yeah, I mean, I loved Hee Haw, man. But again, simple man, simple pleasures. Hee Haw was an awesome way to spend an hour of your day because it was funny and fun.
I tell you what, if I could get to 85, I'd be pretty happy.
Yeah. I mean, somebody recently asked in just one of those sort of group conversations, like, what is the age at which you hope to die? And I thought, yeah, 85, that's about right. If I can get to 85 and be healthy, at 85, so obviously none of these guys were perfectly healthy, otherwise they wouldn't have died, but they were functional and living the life they wanted to live up until very shortly before their deaths. And 85, that seems like a pretty good number. I got 39 more years.
Man, we're getting old.
Yeah. And if I can be functional and virile and still have my mind and be doing things I love for 39 more years, I can't have a complaint in the world about that.
Yeah.
What I can complain about a lot, however, is Ant-Man and the Wasp. So I only watch this movie because my middle child, my 14-year-old, is big into the MCU right now, and she was begging me to take her to the theater, and I just wouldn't do it. I offered to pay for her to go with a friend, but that didn't work out. I was not going to see this movie in the theaters. I didn't like the first one. I went into the second one I went into it knowing I wasn't going to like it, which may have soured me on it in the first place. But it's just more of the same of, I mean, I understand it's a comic book movie and you have to suspend your logic centers of your brain for a good part of it. But even having done that, it wasn't a good movie. It wasn't fun. I felt everything was predictable and boring. And I just didn't enjoy the movie in any way. And I've heard people who I generally agree with say it was, it was a really fun movie. I enjoyed it. It was better than the first one. I just thought it was terrible all the way around. So there's my review of Ant-Man and the Wasp. It's terrible in every way.
I mean, I'm not going to defend it as being a great movie, but it was better than that. The visuals in the movie were really good. The story was really subpar. The bonus scene at the end was phenomenal. So I really enjoyed that. But yeah, it was a little out there. Some of the sight gags I thought were funny. They don't really explain how they worked or why they worked, and the whole little the one thing that was cool was how they, kind of weaved in the trying to learn magic and stuff. So there were some mildly funny things. Not a great movie, but it wasn't quite that bad, Mark.
Okay. I got 2 words for you, Seth. King Vitamin. That's all I have to say about that.
Highly underrated cereal. Highly underrated. It was well worth it. So, nah. So, anyway. Miles, I assume you haven't seen it because this isn't your cup of tea.
No.
Yeah.
No, I was thinking, what sort of movies have I seen or I haven't seen any, really? I really don't get out much. One thing I would like to see is that Bohemian Rhapsody movie.
I would too, yes.
But other than that, no, I'm not a participant in the movie gala experience.
Yeah. So another movie that I watched this week because I have kids was Hotel Transylvania 3. The first one I thought was enjoyable. It was a novel plot. It was clever. The jokes were, they were kind of slapstick, but it was worthwhile. The second one, had some touching, heartwarming sort of family moments. The third one was just a money grab. It just was. It was not. It didn't have any of the charm of the first one. Didn't have any of the wit of the second one. It was just a way to make more money off of what's his name playing Dracula. What's his name?
Adam Sandler.
That's the one. Yeah. So there's my review of that.
Yeah, I hadn't seen the first 2, so I had really no desire to see the third one.
Yeah. Only because I have kids. And,
right.
It was on Netflix.
Yeah.
And then the third movie, again, Netflix, that, I've given negative review. So let me change it up and give a negative review of The Ballad of Buster Scruggs. I was just flipping through, the stuff you might want to watch on Netflix. This thing came up. It's got one of the guys from Oh Brother, Where Art Thou is in one of the first intro scenes, and it looks like it's going to be sort of a send up like Rustler's Rhapsody was back in the day. I think that was Tom Berenger going way back. It's done by the Coen brothers. Coen brothers did Raising Arizona, and they're going in. My wife and I were just sort of sitting on the couch looking for something to watch on a cold, rainy day, and we looked at each other and said, "We know this is going to be weird. That's just a given. It's the Coen brothers. It's going to be weird, but it could be interesting weird." And essentially, it's 6 vignettes over 2+ hours that take place all in the Old West. They're not in any way related to one another. They're just Old West stories. And it's Coen Brothers weird. It's modern Netflix bloody. I don't know why everything on Netflix today has to be gratuitously bloody with, heads exploding and stuff. About halfway through it, I paused it and looked at my wife and said, "Do we want to subject ourselves to another hour of this? I'm not really sure." And in the end, we just sort of decided, all right, we'll stick it out. So it wasn't a miserable experience, but I don't have any better to say about it than that. Really good people. James Franco, Tom Waits, really good actors doing really weird stuff. If that appeals to you, good actors doing weird stuff, then it's for you. Just wasn't for me.
I've never heard of it, and since I don't have Netflix, I don't really think I'll be watching it anytime soon.
Well, it's a Netflix original. That's why you haven't heard of it, and it just came out this week, so it's a brand new Netflix original.
Okay, well, I will. I'll file that away because it has a title that is like, okay, that looks kind of like it would be up my alley. So, but based on your recommendation, probably not one I want to watch.
One of the vignettes, spoiler alert, just accept the fact that I'm ruining one of the 6 storylines, features Tom Waits, the singer, by the way. He's a prospector. He comes upon this river in the valley, it looks like maybe Montana or maybe Northern California, and he gets a hankering, an idea that there might be some gold there. He spends several days finding some gold, a good chunk of gold, and just as he's digging it out, a guy shoots him in the back, but doesn't actually kill him. So then they have a fight, and then he kills the guy that shoots him in the back, digs up the gold, and leaves. That's the story.
Awesome. Sounds, I mean, dude, you talk about you could probably do that with every movie and just oversimplify and and just make, that's the greatest movie ever. Yeah, this guy goes on a treasure hunt, kills a bandit, and gets the treasure.
No, what I'm telling you, I'm not oversimplifying. That's it. There were 15 lines of dialogue in the whole movie, in the whole vignette. It was beautifully shot, lots of animal shots, and the sort of moral of it is that, when the men left, nature reclaimed the area. that's sort of the thing. But it's just weird. Coen Brothers weird. Anyway.
Can you imagine the pitch meeting at the movie studio for that?
I thought the moral of the story was always double tap.
Yes, something like that. Yeah. And so, there's that. And then, Seth, you want to talk about a movie that I don't know what you're talking about. So, Overlord.
Okay. So, I decided to treat myself today to Wingstop in a movie after church. So I'm sitting in Wingstop watching the Cowboys play a lackluster game, but I mean, that's standard fare. But hey, they won. And then so I was like, I pull out my phone, bring up. I was like, okay, it's almost 1. What movie can I see in this time frame? Because I'm not going to stick around because I have the podcast to not do any prep for when I get back. And then, so it's like 12:55, and I'm scrolling through, and I was like, Overlord. Is that Operation Overlord D-Day? So I click on it, and it's paratroopers going in to support the Normandy landing and Nazi zombies. And I was like, okay, well, I know what I know what movie I'm going to see. It doesn't matter what else is playing. I'm going to see a World War II Operation Overlord movie involving Nazi zombies. So, and it has a J.J. Abrams is the producer, I believe. So, but I had never heard of it at all until this movie, and it's not going to be a box office smash by any means, but it was interesting and it was good. There wasn't tons of zombies, because they had to stop them from getting out, but it was an interesting concept. And I mean, obviously you can only watch, Saving Private Ryan and Band of Brothers for, so you're not going to outdo the realism that's been out there recently. But I thought it was an interesting movie. So if you want to see what and who knows, maybe this is the true history. Yeah, the whole reason we invaded when we did was before the Nazis could mass produce their zombies. So but anyway, so spoiler alert, the Americans win. And then the entire movie covers it takes place in the course of 24 hours. But an interesting movie. I like war movies. I like zombie stuff. And so, of course, I was all in for Overlord.
So did it end with a close-up of some undead hand twitching so that you know that there's room for a sequel later?
No. It was just they had, I don't want to do any spoilers, but no, it ended with the surviving American paratroopers keeping the secret and being dispersed to another unit to continue the fight. So, they're burying history so that the Americans won't dig it up and do something stupid later. So,
because once you learn to weaponize zombies, warfare has changed.
Right. I mean, it was just I was just looking through it. I was like, Overlord. And I was like, Nazi zombies.
If I've ever heard a Seth movie, that's it. That is the Seth movie of Seth. It's World War II history and zombies.
Yeah. I just recently bought a trilogy of zombie books that were in the fiction, but not the science fiction, which was weird. And then I also recently listened to the entire Pandemic audiobook yesterday while I was on call for work. So I just picked up zombies and pandemics again after, laying them aside for a while to kind of clear my head. And now I'm jumping right back in.
Yeah, the only thing that would have made that a more Seth movie is if the zombies had been from space and they were tinkering with Earth's timeline so that they could conquer it in the future.
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, that I don't know. No, that would be unrealistic, Mark. Come
on. And just following up on a little bit from last week, Georgia has a governor. It was too close to call as we were speaking last week. The loser of the non-victorious candidate gave a scathing speech that she explicitly said was not a concession, and said that the guy who won is the legal governor, but not the rightful governor. So it was really just all kinds of hissy fit throwing in the form of politics. But in the end, she decided that, it was decided. She didn't have anything to do with it. It was decided that even if all of the so-called contested votes had been in her favor, mathematically she could not have forced a runoff. So we have a governor, and we also have really bad behavior on the part of politicians.
No. What? Bad behavior? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. I feel bad because the 5 boxes of Georgia ballots I found behind my house, I never turned those in, so it's all my fault.
And you have a senator in Arizona, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The first time I've been living in Arizona for 16 years, and the first time I remember this place being a reasonable state. I guess in the last 12 months, we have a history of, McCain being reasonable and then Jeff Flake being reasonable-ish, which is probably a good thing. Well, we got a new senator, Democrat, for the first time in 30 years, something like that. And the weird thing is that the other candidate, a Republican, Martha McSally, who was, I think, one of the first Air Force pilots, anyway, to fly in combat. She gave this concession speech that was unbelievably good. She actually did the right thing. And what? And so we're all kind of in shock here because it's like, I think that the ghost of John McCain is floating around somewhere trying to tell people to behave themselves here or something. But I don't know, maybe there's some hope.
Do we need to call her and remind her what country we're in? I mean, and how
Really?
politics are supposed to work here in America?
Yeah, I know. What's up with that?
Florida finally managed to certify their election, still without counting the votes, depending on who you ask. They just went ahead and certified it. One of my favorite quotes that came out of that was from one of the people saying, I'm paraphrasing the quote, but it was essentially, you're all making me look like an idiot. No, you're making yourself look like an idiot. We're just reporting what's happening here. You had 18 years to learn how to count ballots, and you haven't figured it out yet. Broward
but
County.
At least it wasn't a hanging Chad, right? So at least that.
That sounds like a medical condition.
There's something you wouldn't want on you. So sticking with the media thing, you want to recommend a movie or video of some sort, Miles?
Yeah. It's well, Stan Lee got all the headlines this week. Obviously the guy died, but what his contribution to social culture is amazing. But what people often forget is that he was not the only creator of Marvel's, heroic, Spider-Man and so on. Back in the day, he worked with a couple of other guys, and one particular guy he worked with was a guy by the name of Steve Ditko. And when I saw Stan Lee passing this week, it reminded me of a documentary that was done probably 10 years ago by the BBC. A guy by the name of Jonathan Ross did it. He's a big comic book fan. And lo and behold, I found it. The whole thing is on YouTube. So if you're ever interested in finding out a little bit about what happened back in the day when Stan Lee and the gang were creating all this stuff, check out a YouTube video titled In Search of Steve Ditko. That's Ditko. And you might enjoy it. I found it really good. And I'm not a comic book guy, but I really enjoyed this documentary. So give it a shot.
And Steve Ditko was sort of a staff writer and was, I'm reading his Wikipedia. He died in June, by the way. He was tasked with creating Spider-Man. So Stan Lee had the idea of sort of a teenage superhero, and that he would have spider-type powers. And then Ditko sort of filled in the blank. So, depending on how you want to read that, he either created Spider-Man or co-created Spider-Man. And then also he was one of the primary forces behind Doctor Strange. So
yeah. I mean, the thing that's really cool about this documentary is it's not just about his history. It's a story about having to try and find the guy. And it's almost like a private investigator type thing. Really enjoyable. I thoroughly remember loving this thing. So give it a shot.
All right. And then, by the way, listener, if you can't tell, this is an absolute hodgepodge of an episode. We just decided to get together and just talk about stuff. It's a holiday weekend. So, you get what you get. But I am interested in the Pirate Ship Museum, Miles.
Oh, yeah. So we went back a couple of weeks. We didn't do a show a couple of weeks back. And I'm to blame. I was in Cape Cod for the weekend visiting some friends. And they introduced me to this place. It was a museum for the only recovered pirate ship wreck ever. Apparently, it was a ship off the Cape Cod coast called the Widder, And apparently it was originally a slave ship that was used to transport slaves from Africa through to the Caribbean and then onto America. But it was taken over by pirates. And this ship was apparently quite legendary for scuttling a lot of other ships. And it was sunk off the coast of Cape Cod. And apparently in the 80s, some guy found it. And I love these like treasure quest kind of things. I don't know why, but I just sort of gravitate towards this stuff. So a friend of mine said, have you seen this museum to this pirate ship? I'm like, no. So we went there, and I tell you why, it was a lot of fun. Really well done, real nice presentation. But you go in there, you actually see the true, bounty of what was on these ships. And the cannons and the tools and the anchors and all the stuff that survives under the ocean. But you actually see real like doubloons and real silver and all the stuff that was looted as this ship had, done its bad deeds, and the whole story behind the whole thing. So yeah, I really enjoyed it. So yeah, I think it's in Hyannis. Just in Cape Cod, and it's the Whydah, Wydah, and it's a museum for it. So if you're in the area, check it out.
All right, not exactly universally available, but if you're in the area, I like that sort of stuff. I like museums in general. One of my favorite things to do in a museum is try to work out how much they're guessing at. Because all museums do this, right? You see this giant dinosaur bone and or dinosaur skeleton, and you realize that like 3 of those bones are real, and they put the rest of them together, by guessing. Or when you see anything, they're educated guesses, but they are guesses. So I like to sort of look at museums from that context. Like, how much of this did they just make up? Intelligent making up, educated making up, but it's still making it up.
Yeah. Well, I've been lucky enough to see there are 2 real museums that have been legendary to me. One was the British Museum in London. Incredible. I actually saw, stuff from, oh my gosh, back in the days of Tigris and the Euphrates and all that stuff going all the way back. They rescued a lot of the stuff out of Iraq before it was looted. And it was all on display there. The Rosetta Stone was there. I actually stood next to the mummy of, who was it? Nefertiti, I think. Anyway, incredible museum. That was great. But surprisingly, the best museum I've ever been to is in Mexico City. It's the Museum of Anthropology. If you ever want to see Mayan and Aztec culture, that place rocks. It's huge. It's going to take you all day to get through it, but absolutely amazing.
That would be cool to see.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're not all the world travelers that you are, Miles, but I can live.
It's only a 2-hour flight down to Mexico City. It's an easy one.
Let's see. That's all I had to complain about this week. Miles had a couple of news articles. I think Miles put those there.
No, that would be Seth.
Oh, Seth, okay. Because Seth had said he didn't have anything.
Well,
go ahead.
I found some stuff.
All right.
So we don't have to talk about it. Since we were kind of doing this show the way we used to do it, remember, I used to load up on news articles that we never would talk about. So had to put some in there. Well,
we all know Comcast as a company is, evil. That's common knowledge, and we all know that they a large part of their I can't even keep it up. Comcast sucks, and now the the legal system agrees, and they have to pay almost $1 million. $1 million, which is what they could scrape off the bottom of their shoe.
Right. Well, it's only for I always butcher the name, Massachusetts. So anyway, the great state of Massachusetts. Anyway, as you can tell, I'm from East Texas, and I spent more time reading than I did talking growing up, so that's why I can't pronounce it. But yes, they had to agree to pay $70,000 in refunds because of deceptive advertising practices. So what they would do is they would lock you in to, hey, 2 years, we won't raise the price of your contract, but in small print, but we might raise the price of the fees associated with that contract. So then once they jack the fees up and you downgrade to a more manageable level, you then have to pay an early termination fee of $240 to break the contract after they technically broke it by changing the fee structure. And so the AG said, yeah, that's wrong. You're going to have to cancel debts for more than 20,000 customers and pay 70 or 700,000 in refunds. So, that's generic espresso for a month, guys. Got to make that money back.
Yeah. And, in classic corporate fashion, quote, Comcast settled the case despite saying it disagreed with the allegations. Comcast said in a statement to Ars Technica, today's settlement with Massachusetts Attorney General's offices reflect our ongoing efforts to improve the customer experience. While we disagree with the allegations in the settlement, which relate to years-old advertisements and do not reflect Comcast's current policies and practices, we are committed to partnering with Attorney General Haley and others who share our commitment to improving the experience for our customers in all respects.
I know it kind of made me throw up in my mouth a little bit when I read that, so I didn't want to say it.
It's a classic case of speaking without saying anything.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, what are you going to say? Yep, we were ripping people off and we got caught. Darn it, we're just going to do better next time. We tried really hard whenever we negotiated those contracts. And, could you just imagine if, there was a reporter going around the Comcast employees the way you talk to the NFL teams? And I'm speaking with Joe in accounting, and Joe had this really good brainstorm, and then we ran it through legal, and I'm here with Bob in the legal department, and he's like, well, Sarah, we thought that since we put an asterisk there and we developed this 0.75 font that clearly explained everything, if you were an expert in Mandarin Chinese, that we would be covered by the legal recourses of this case as it worked its way through. And then, Vice President so-and-so, what do you think about this? Well, the lawyers had to get paid anyway, so we might as well do this cash grab. And we got caught this time, back to the drawing board, got a long season ahead of us, Susan, and we're going to do better next time. So that would be a great way to do these type of news stories if we ever put thought into this. So anyway, what do you think? Would that be a good way to maybe do news stories in the future?
That sounds like a great deal of effort and time.
I know, but it was funny in my mind.
Yeah,
so
it was enjoyable listening to it. And sure,
I got to give props to the Attorney General's Department. Well, I don't know about other states. I can only talk to Arizona, but most of the time you hear these stories about the big corporations sort of, screwing over the little guy and so on. But we actually, for the first time, I've got to say, Arizona's Attorney General's Department rocks. They've got this service for residents in the state. If you've got some grievance, you can actually file it online with the Attorney General's Department. And I had this issue with a particular website in another state that was not okay. So if you've ever had to Google yourself, and I don't do this, that's not a thing I normally do, but I found out that a lot of these websites out there have your private information publicly available on Google, right? So if somebody Googles you, they can find out where you live and your phone numbers and all this sort of stuff and your family, and it's pretty bad. Well, you can usually go to those websites and request to be removed from them, right? And there are even services out there that will do that for you. You can pay a couple of $100 a year, and these services will erase you from these public websites. So I tried doing that, and because I'm kind of a private person, I don't really want to put myself out there so much. Anyway, I cleaned all this stuff up with one of these services that got rid of it all for me, except for this one website called whitepages.com. Okay? If you ever try to get yourself off whitepages.com, good luck, it won't work. And I tried and tried and tried. And, it was the last one of a long amount of effort to do it. Couldn't do it. I ended up contacting the Arizona Attorney General's Department and filed a complaint against whitepages.com for not removing information on request. And I got to tell you, a couple of weeks ago, I got a notice from the ATG. They removed me. And I checked it, and lo and behold, it actually worked. So, I don't know. When I hear about the Attorney General's Department in states suing these corporations, most of the time it doesn't actually land on our desk. We're not beneficiaries directly. But I got to tell you, in this particular case, it does work. So maybe, contact your state Attorney General's Department if you've got some sort of a grievance like that, and you might find they actually can help you out.
Cool.
Yeah, that is sort of their job, right? The Attorney General is to represent the general populace, hence the term Attorney General, in all things, state-based law. So, yeah.
Well, it's going to be something that comes up probably on our radar in the next few months with this whole privacy stuff, particularly what they did in Europe to try to allow people to remove themselves off the internet per se. It sounds to me like California's going ahead with the same sort of laws, and we're going to start to see this stuff coming into our normal domain. So, yeah, it's all good.
Yeah, and continuing on that, when your Attorney General can't speak on your behalf because it's not yet illegal, that's what we have the Senate for. And the Senate is using their time and our money effectively by taking on really one of the most important issues of our time, and that is machines that call you.
Yes, robocalling is a thing, and it sucks. Although I did find a way to get them to hang up really fast, because every day, it's about 9 o'clock, I get a call for either auto insurance or a call telling me this is not a solicitation that then goes on to something. But I would answer the phone and I would say Sheriff's Department Fraud Division. And then I hear nothing, and the call hangs up. And then I tried. How are you just gonna be? So I went FBI, and again it hung up. So, but anyway, it was fun just to do that. But yeah, so this is a case of the Senate, a bipartisan deal from the Senate. So that tells you that their campaign coffers are extremely depleted after this money-intensive election cycle. So they are putting the calls out to their corporate sponsors saying, hey, we need more money so that we can effectively represent the needs of the people, because we'll tell them what they need. And so this bill, the Traced Act that they are coming out with I don't know what they're going to do, because I honestly don't. But supposedly it's going to up the fines, and it's going to make something illegal. But again, how are you going to do it? So I don't know how they're going to enforce it. But hey, there is that rule out there that criminals will break no more than 18 separate laws at any one time. So we get a few more of these in the books, and we might actually start to make a dent in the robocalling. I hate it because they spoof your number. And so they spoof the area code and that 3-digit, and it's only the last 4 digits are the same. And you can't go into blocking those, because eventually you're going to have every number in the phone book blocked. So I just wish they quit spoofing and show me, because it's like, when I hear the phone and it's a robo, your student loan debt is out of control, or, hey, we can save you money on our insurance, or we're calling about your credit card debt, or this is, it's just like, 1 second into the call, and you're going to hang up and you're not going to pay attention. But yet, because 1 in 1,000 people do, that's all it takes, because robocalling is so cheap. So we have the power to end robocalling if we would stop responding to them. So, but since we're not, hey, the Senate's going to try it for us. Go Senate.
We ought to do something. It's getting out of control. We signed up for a thing called Nomo Robo. for my wife mainly for her cell phone. It helped, maybe 50% dropped. It's a thing, an app you put on your phone, and when the call comes in, it looks up the number it's coming from, and it knows it's a reported number for robocalling. It'll either block it or it will alert you on the screen of the phone that this is a robocall, so you can not answer it. Yeah, it was worth it. I mean, it wasn't. I think it was like $10 or something for the year. It wasn't expensive, but might be worth looking at. No Robo.
Well, the Google Dialer does that. If you just download the Google Dialer, it comes on any pure Google phone as well, like the Pixel or whatever. But you can download it. It uses Google's database to do a reverse lookup and let you know if a call is suspected spam. But I mean, this is the same. It's the email problem. The problem is that because Google owns, I'm making this number up, 70% of all mail on the planet, they have become just amazing at filtering email. And while there's still millions, probably billions of spam messages every day being sent, very few of us actually see them because Google and other companies like that, the Bayesian filters, the things have gotten so good at it. So spam has become not effective. Spam mail has become not effective. And it was like, Seth, you said 1 in 1,000 for emails. It was like 0.0001%. If you get one responder out of 10 million, it's worthwhile. But, we've solved that problem more or less. It's now just internet background radiation. And so they've got to go somewhere else. And previous to, the last 10 years, making phone calls was too expensive because you had to have real numbers. But now with voice over IP and other technologies making it so much easier, yeah, it's just the next thing. I don't really have an issue with it because I just don't answer my phone. I don't. If I don't know you, if you're not one of the 10 or 12 people that interact with on a regular basis, I just don't answer my phone. So I don't know how many spam calls I get because I don't answer them. I don't know. But I've had surprisingly little. I've had my phone number for 20 years. I've had it a long time, and I've had surprisingly little spam. So I don't know why some people get a lot, others don't. I work in a cube farm, and so we all, in a space of a few hundred square feet, there's 24 people, and we all have phone numbers that are sequential in number, 751, 752, 753. And you can, on Tuesdays and Thursdays in particular, the Medicare Advantage phone calls start coming in, and you can just hear them roll down the aisle. Ring, ring. As soon as one hangs up or goes to voicemail, the next person goes, and, they're just on a script that hits our bank of numbers twice a week. And it's just, yeah, like you said, it's cheap and easy. So by golly, let's make something illegal more illegal, because, labeling hate crimes has solved all crimes. So we just need to call these hate robocalls, and that will stop all crimes. It's a magical thing.
I think you could prove that if you're robo-dialing, if you do something that robo-dials, that is malice aforethought, and that is a hate crime. So maybe, we just need a good district attorney, maybe an attorney general, to prosecute these under hate crime legislation. I think that, why not? They got a lawyer anyway, so might as well try something.
Yeah, because beating somebody up is illegal, but beating somebody up you don't like is even more illegal.
Right.
Yeah. So.
Amen. Oh, how our justice system is deteriorated to the point of just bleeping stupidity. That was a free one. Sorry. Yeah. That was just free.
I'm just reading this article, and it's talking about how, robocalls is one of the great problems of our, really? That's one of the great problems of our time. Really?
Well, if we weren't spending all of the time fighting off the robocalls, then look at all the time we would have to address, other major issues of our time. What color was that dress? So
Senator Ed Markey, Democrat in Massachusetts, says, as the scourge of spoof calls and robocalls reaches epidemic levels, the bipartisan Trace Act will provide every person with a phone much needed relief. Thank you, Senator. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Well, let's not worry about that $21 trillion of deficit. We've got to worry about robocalls, right?
Yeah. Homeless people, vets dying, Medicare or Social Security that's going to collapse under its own weight, single-payer health care that'll never work. But robocalls are a scourge at epidemic levels.
Right. Well, come on, let's face it. We don't expect them to do much. So we need to make them sound like they're doing something, by addressing this issue. Yeah. Like I say, I would love to get rid of robocalls. It would make the world a better place, but in the grand scheme of things, not much better. And who knows, maybe it would maybe how much latency would be reduced on the internet if we could totally eradicate all spam and robocalls. Just a thought. We should need to get some math people on that.
Yeah. I propose a new rule in American politics at all levels, state, federal, and local, that any public official who uses the phrase, "I will fight for you," must then be required to step in a ring with boxing gloves and fight some other person who used the phrase, "I will fight for you."
That'd be cool.
Yeah.
That would be, and the proceeds can go towards the national debt.
Yeah, I would totally pay to see that, because these politicians use rhetoric like, "I will fight for you." You've never fought for anything in your life. The biggest fight you've ever had is over who gets the last smear of cream cheese on the bagel in the break room. You've never fought anybody for anything.
One thing this
like
would
Nacho Libre masks.
Yes.
This would increase the number of veterans serving in Congress, because I would not want to, vote in some 98-pound weakling who all he ever did was sit behind a desk. I would want to vote in somebody with scars from the battlefield. I will fight for you.
Oh, see, that's even better. I hadn't even thought about consequences. So if you lose the fight, you have to vote for something that the guy who won the fight is pushing,
yes.
Right?
Oh,
you have to vote for his initiative.
I will fight for the right of big business to drill those oil wells to save American jobs. I will fight for the environment to protect our planet. Round one, fight.
New senator for California, Hulk Hogan.
It would basically boil down to Texas versus California. And since, they're all social justice warriors and we're all military gun-toting warriors, I think it would go well for Texas, at least in the early rounds.
Senator Johnson is a former linebacker from East Texas. He's 14-0 in senator death matches, and he's going up against that could be awesome. The television rights alone could be worth millions.
Like I say, it would put a dent. We might get rid of our deficit spending and have surplus spending to address the debt. So that would be, that could really work. The future of American, granted, we just basically moved one step closer to Idiocracy, the movie. But it would be a glorious slide, I think. So.
I'm going to run for public office with that as my platform. That's what it'll be.
Oh, dude, that's awesome. Yeah. So, is it a tables, ladders, and chairs match? Is it old school rules, Queensberry, whatever? That would be awesome.
I'm 6'4", 350 pounds. I could win some races. I could take Pelosi down like that.
Yep.
I think I've got a good chance here.
This would be awesome. I would love that. I support your platform, Mark. We can get a bipartisan coalition of states behind us here.
Yeah. One of my other ideas, as long as we're just spouting nonsense, I thought the government should get into the movie making business. Right, so you take J.J. Abrams and you take The Rock, and you get like, look, you do this movie for us, we'll give you a 50% break on your taxes this year. And then you got the Infinity War that made $1 billion over opening weekend. All that money just goes right into the deficit. It cost nobody. Everybody was donating their money for a 50% break on their taxes that year. It's a win-win.
That would be cool. So I that one, I don't know. That would be weird. I mean, would you? Because then it's like, don't you love your country? I mean, look at the marketing on that. Do you love America? If so, you need to watch Nazi cheerleaders, of death or whatever. So
if you don't see this movie, you're a commie.
It's for the children.
All right. I think we have rambled long enough. I'm calling it. Time of death, 9:24 p.m., November 18th. So, Seth, what happened this week in history?
All right, Mark. Well, I just wanted to say for all of you non-history junkies out there that a lot of stuff happened this week in history. I was going through, I could use that. But Mark, the story I chose on is to let everyone know that on November the 18th, 1970, Bill Gates starts programming. And you talk about a one event that impacted basically the course of electronics in America and the world. This probably had a lot to do with it. So Microsoft Corporation co-founder and longtime CEO Bill Gates gets his start in computer programming at the Lakeside School in Seattle. The school owned some early computers, and Gates and his friends spent nearly all their time pushing the machines to their limits. Time on Lakeside and other machines in the Seattle area was costly, however, so the newly formed Lakeside Programmers Group offered Information Services, Inc. free programming services on its PDP-10 in return for free time on the computer. The group designed a payroll program for the company in exchange. And Mark, that happened this week in history, and now back to you.
Not that long ago, 48 years ago.
Yep.
It marked the time when the world changed in a way that nobody ever could have imagined. Bill Gates didn't change the world with his coding, but he changed the world because he was a coder. And, if this hadn't started in 1970, that's interesting.
PDP-10. The first computer I ever programmed on was a PDP-11. But that was in 77. So, yeah, bit after him.
And it just goes to show you the benefit of these partnerships between educational institutions and corporate institutions. What was the company? I lost it.
Information Services.
Information Sciences Inc. They got a free payroll program. They didn't have to pay somebody to write it because you couldn't go buy software in 1970. You had to hire somebody to write it for you. So they got free software in time for spare time, probably spare cycles on their computers, and the world changed. So I've always been a big believer in these sort of things, and this kind of story just reinforces that belief.
Well, look, they got it in time for their end-of-year processing, I bet. So, or that might have came later because I'm sure that happened sometime after November 1970. Right. But and think of the head up that would give you in terms of the money you would save, because it now takes one accountant to do what 10 accountants used to do, and gives you a leg up on your competition.
I believe it was Wozniak. It might have been Gates. It was one of those two guys. It was an interview from years ago where they were talking about the first time they went to an accountant software and introduced the spreadsheet to them. These guys were working with paper tables and slide rules and maybe the HP hand calculators, and they introduced this on the original Apple spreadsheet, and he describes this accountant. His hand is shaking as he's writing the check in excitement over the fact that he's going to be able to do months of work in hours now. I think it's easy to lose sight of that, but the things that we do today on a regular basis, that might take us an hour to do, writing an email, the simple act of writing an email replaces technology that would have taken months. The Pony Express, the sending things across the Atlantic in mail. We do things today in seconds that would have taken months to do 100 years ago, and it's easy to lose sight of that.
Well, even in the late 90s, late 80s, at least, you would you would have these complicated programs on your desktop computer. You would check your formula, is it right? You would hit enter, and okay, off to lunch. Maybe it'll be done by the time I get back. And now, you better be trying to compute pi to the 100 billionth decimal point or something like that, because now think of how fast computers are now compared. It's amazing, and we take it for granted all the time. And people who come after us, they don't even know any better.
Right.
Well, I think the other thing to keep in mind is that back in the 70s and the 80s, they were inventing something with very, very little before them. So like a spreadsheet was the only thing that predisposed a spreadsheet before VisiCalc and all those programs was a piece of paper and a ruler. Right. Where you would draw columns and rows and you would do everything manually, right? And that's what the accountant's world was. To put that on a computer was revolutionary because nobody had ever done that before. You'd produce printout reports, which were tabular column reports, but never anything that was in real time updating like that. And so many other things were done, the word processor, the network, video games. There was nothing before these. These were original ideas that came out of somebody's creative brain imagining something from nothing. And ever since probably the 90s, and I'm going to sound like an old guy, thinking about the good old days, but truly anything from the 90s was leveraging off what came before it. So a GUI was just a pretty interface on top of a terminal, right? And databases they continued to evolve, but there was always something before them. Networks the same way, the internet the same way. These quantum shifts where they come from nothing, somebody's just imaginary brain came up with something with nothing behind it. There are times in our history that are revolutionary times, and the 70s and the 80s was that for information technology. And today everything's just a little step forward. We stand on the shoulders of giants, and we don't have to do a huge amount to make a major step forward now. But back in those days, these guys were animals. What they had to do and the risks, and there was no such thing as venture capital money. I mean, you did it because you had this stupid idea and you wanted to do it. But today it's a little different. So yeah, I have a lot of respect for those guys.
Wow. Little mini tirade right there. Unexpected.
Yeah, a little one.
Unbidden. So now, Seth, what do you have this week to thrill us all with the weirder side of the internet?
Okay. Well, since we are kind of kicking off the holiday seasons this month, I wanted to just let you know, if you're afraid of the zombie apocalypse or societal breakdown as you know it, you can head over to stealthangelsurvival.com and find everything from emergency preparedness kits, think Army Navy store, military and tactical backpacks, kind of cool survival tools. For that one gift you can't find at elementop.com/Amazon, head over to stealthangelsurvival.com or, last week's thisiswhyimbroke.com and see, like I say, just trying to give you some options there. You can find, they have all manner of price range for their gifts. And, you don't have to be a serious prepper to understand the value of having, of being just generally prepared. You don't have to go out and buy 25 years worth of survival rations, but, it might be a good idea to keep a day or two's worth of survival rations. And if you're like me, I'm not going to eat them every day, but hey, I like the occasional MRE because I'm weird. So for the person you don't know what to get them for, go to this website and just shop around.
I kind of want one of those backpacks. Those are cool. I love that we live in a time and in a world where paint it black, put some Velcro and a D-ring on it, and use the word tactical, and suddenly everybody wants it.
Right.
I mean, I don't know what's different about a tactical backpack versus a backpack. I'm not sure what the word tactical means there, but it immediately makes it cooler.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, it's either I think the word tactical means add $25. So that might it's just a marketing thing.
You can have a flashlight or you can have a tactical flashlight. Which one would you pick?
Yeah, I would pick the tactical because it costs more money, therefore it's cooler. But no, I like the thing that I find really cool is you can buy like a 72-hour survival kit, or for one person or whatever, and it's like a backpack filled with survival stuff. Now you could probably go out and buy it yourself, and come up to a cheaper price. But anyway, like I say, I'm not a prepper, but I do believe in being prepared. So so check out stealthangelsurvival.com. If for the prepper in your family, and you of course they might think you bought them junk because everybody should always have that, but they would like that you at least thought of them well enough to head over to there and get them a gift card. Maybe they have gift cards.
There you go, and everything is either black or camo, so day or night you're covered.
Yep.
Do I need two tactical backpacks? Do I need both the camo and the black one just to be safe? When the sun goes down, do I have to transfer everything out of the camo one into the black one? And do I have to put a backpack in the backpack to make sure that I'm tactical?
No. Here's what you do. You get them both, and you pack the camouflage one for one type of emergency, and then you pack the black one for a different type of emergency. So that way, you don't have one size fits all, because if you're running for zombies, you're going to need a different set of survival tools than if, somebody crashed and broke a gas pipeline and, the world's going to descend into anarchy because there's no fuel anymore. So that's why you get the different color backpacks, is to be prepared for different situations.
I love the SA-FP1 military-style waist pouch, known everywhere else in the world as a fanny pack. But it sounds much cooler if you put some numbers on it and call it a waist pouch.
Yep. I wonder what it would look like wearing that into Disneyland.
I'm going to see if they have one in a size 51. That might be because most of these tactical guys are built more like me than they are, a soldier.
Yeah, probably. So,
good stuff, Seth. I can always count on you to bring some randomness to our world.
Zombies don't discriminate.
Yep. Whenever you're looking for just that weird bit of data to make your encryption key just all the more impregnable, I can provide a service that few people can match.
Yeah, I mean, there's lava lamps, or there's Seth. Take your pick.
Yeah, it was. I was listening to I think it was one of the how it should work or how stuff works, and they were talking about this one crypto company. They have a wall of 50 lava lamps, and that's what they use to generate entropy. And I was like, that's actually kind of cool. So. Yeah.
All right. This is the part of the show where I tell you how you can feedback to us, how you can comment, how you can let us know what's on your mind. You go to elementop.com, click the Contact Us button at the top of the very old webpage. Yes, I know it needs to be updated. Answer the world's hardest CAPTCHA. Fill out the form there, and that will send a message to me that gets priority in my in-basket. So we like to hear what you have to say. We're doing one more show this year. Next week will be our last show of 2018. We'll be taking December off. So get your comments in early if you want them to be heard this year, or I'll stockpile them and we'll start next year. But do that. Yeah, this is what happens when we don't have a topic and I don't set a timer. We are now 1 hour and 5 minutes in, and we didn't really talk about anything, but we talked about a lot of things. This is the show as it used to be, only it's an hour shorter than it used to be.
Yep.
But we really do want to know what you, the listener, have to say. You are listening, therefore I'm going to assume you have some input, some feedback, some, even if it's just attaboy, those are good to have now and then. But seriously, just go and let us know what you think, elementop.com. Or you can send an email to geekrant@elementop.com. That'll go to all three of us, lest you think I am filtering your crappy emails to the other guys. Or you can dial 559-I-AM-OP. No, you have to figure out what those numbers are from anywhere in the world, and you can leave us a voicemail on our Google Voice line, and we'll probably play it right here on the show, and you can be famous, internet famous anyway.
Or GeekRant famous.
There you go. Also, if you want to throw money at us, the way to do that is Patreon, Patreon, patreon.com/elementop. We appreciate that. For all your holiday shopping needs, elementop.com/Amazon gets just a little cookie in your browser. I get a percentage of everything you buy. Doesn't cost you a penny more. They just take a little vig, give it to me as a referral fee. I appreciate it if you do that. It costs you nothing. It is the most amazing form of slacktivism possible. It is literally no different to you. The only difference you see is a hashtag at the end of your Amazon.com URL. That's it. You see that hashtag, you know you're donating to Element OP. So I would appreciate it if you did that.
One word about that, Mark. A lot of times whenever people click on links and you have those tiny URLs that redirect you to an Amazon site, they throw referrals, their own referral onto that. So you can think, oh, I set my referral link, but then you end up clicking on this product and then you lose it. And so then they're getting the referral. And and if you're somebody you're just passing through, it's no big deal. But if your desire is to, and if it's not us, if it's some other company that you want to support, support whoever, it's just you need to make sure. The easiest way to make sure is right before you go to Amazon to buy stuff, you head over to elementop.com/Amazon in our case. But if there's a different company that you support, that you do that first to make sure you haven't inadvertently reset your tracking cookie by clicking on a link from some other website.
Right. Good advice there. And just, full disclosure, anytime I link out to Amazon from my website, I put my own referral link in there. I assume that is known. That's what I'm doing. But I'm going to go ahead and say that. If you click on something to Amazon from my website, it's going to have my referral link in it. Yeah, I always make sure that every time I go to Amazon, I go to elementop.com/Amazon for that very reason. Because I click around, if you're, perusing a blog or something, that's so 1990s. If you go to Amazon through any other fashion, you can't be certain that you're using the referral link of choice. So make a bookmark. Yeah, those are still things. People actually still use bookmarks for elementop.com/Amazon. Or what I do, in my browser of choice, I just type E, and the list of things that start with an E pop down, and I scroll down, I click on the one that says elementop.com/Amazon, and that's how I always know I'm going there. So again, it is the absolute painless way, except for making sure you click things. So minimally painful way to give us a little support. And I think I said last year after I did my taxes, when everything was said and done, and after I'd paid all the hosting fees and domain and all that, I think I made about $300 profit for the year. This isn't a money-making thing for me, but every little bit that I don't have to pay out certainly helps. I would like it to be a money-making thing, don't get me wrong, but so far it's not. But the Patreon numbers are up this year, and I appreciate that. So I may actually be able to send you guys some real money at the end of the year. I think I gave you each $100, I think, last year. It's
something like that.
Yeah, it's not exactly. On a day like today, where we did almost no show prep, even the almost part is, we had to log in ahead of time. We had to make the show notes. We copy a template there. There's not a lot there, but let's call it an hour, right? So there's an hour of prep there. We've been on the air here for a little over an hour. There was about a half an hour before that where we were talking to each other. We got things ready. When we're all done here, these guys are going to pack up their files and send it back to me. So that's going to be, call it 20 minutes each. So that's 40 minutes between the two of them. Then I'm going to spend about an hour or so editing and publishing it. So for a show with no prep, we've just spent about 5 hours between the three of us. All right. So, and then for a show where we're actually doing a lot of prep, that might be 5 hours each. And so you're looking at 15 hours. So let's just say that throughout the course of the year, the average amount of time we spend on a show is about 6 hours. I think that's a reasonable number. Some more, some less. 6 man-hours spent for every one of these shows that we do. That's not a lot, but it's 6 hours that we took away from something else. 6 hours we took away from our families. 6 hours took away from our leisure time, 6 hours that we invested in this content. And all I'm asking for you for 6 hours of work is $1. Go to patreon.com, pledge $1 a show. I mean, if 6 hours of work isn't worth $1, I mean, even in India, you can make $1 for 6 hours of work. I mean, just think about it in those terms. And I know, we have these regular conversations where I'm begging for money. I'm just asking to not be insulted, frankly. Yes, this is a volunteer thing. We didn't start this thing for the money, and like I just said, we're not making any money. We don't continue to do it for money. We continue to do it for 2 reasons. One, we enjoy it, but I think that's actually the minor thing. The enjoyment is secondary to the fact that we each have a goal to produce something that is worthwhile. We come here together because we want the 6 hours that we spend on this to be of value to hundreds, thousands, or hundreds of thousands of people. If that value is simply a snicker here and there, we win, right? If that value is education, so much the better. But we do this, we're motivated to do this out of altruism. It's not because we want to get rich or anything like that. But at the same time, it's kind of the very least you could do. What is the least you could do? The least you could do is nothing, right? Not even download it, right? I get that. But, if you're, I don't want to be mean, but if all you're doing is downloading and never giving back in any way, not sending an email, not sharing it with somebody else, not giving a review on iTunes, if you're not doing anything, you are in the most literal sense dead weight. You are costing me time and money and effort and giving me nothing back. You decide whether you're okay with that. Do you want to be dead weight? That's your choice. I'm just telling you that's the way it is. We're spending, we did 50 shows this year, 48 shows this year at 6 hours each. That's 240 hours, 250, somewhere around there, hours of our work. If you spent 250 hours on something, you'd want some recognition, right? I'm not trying to preach at you. I'm just telling you the way things are.
Pay the man.
Yeah. Any other comments on that, guys?
No, I mean, I like your, occasionally you have to explain pay for what you like. And so it's sort of like, you watch in Dallas area, it was Channel 13 was public television, and you got to watch Doctor Who and the British comedies. And then a couple of Sundays or a couple of weeks out of the year was the telethon pledge to remind people, hey, it's listener supported. And if you want to watch this, you need to pony up. So, it's like pay for what you like is the catchphrase. But then when somebody says, what does it mean, pay for what you like? Then you can say, oh, he talked about that at the end of the next to the last show. And so, we don't harp on it all the time, but I guess once in a while you got to say it.
Yeah.
Well, let me throw something in there on that. I've been doing a lot of work in the last, say, 6 months on a platform called Steemit, which is a kind of a blogging platform that uses the cryptocurrency Steem to pay content creators. And it's an interesting dynamic. But what I found was that, it takes a lot of effort to be a content creator on the internet, which is what we're doing here. We're creating content. We're putting it out there. It might be in the form of a podcast or a YouTube video or a blog or something, but there's a lot of work that goes behind that. But a lot of the time that people have been doing it and trying to make money off this sort of thing, they're not focused on quality. Now, on some platforms like YouTube and maybe your own personal blog or a podcast, we have to commit to a quality level, which means we can't just blurt out anything. I mean, even though we criticize ourselves for not doing as much prep, the fact is that all three of us, have a fairly decent history in the world of content creation. We're not amateurs at this. We've done this for a while. And so we can bring talent to the table. Whereas a lot of times what I've seen on platforms like Steemit, people are just pushing stuff out there which is irrelevant rubbish. And they're getting paid for this on the quantity over quality mantra. And I think that in this case, we're trying to produce a quality product. And what we're asking for is to use things like Patreon or the Amazon links or other forms to try to monetize a quality. We could easily produce crap without any effort, any background, any research, just to push it out there like everything else. And you know what? In my opinion, the world would be a worse place because quality matters. And I think that part of what Mark's saying here is your vote and support for what we're doing is a vote and support of quality, as opposed for us just pushing rubbish out there which we don't care about. Because I know all three of us, we care about what we're doing, and we just want to see that you care about it too. That's all.
Well said. You know, I'm sitting here surrounded by about $5,000 worth of equipment that I purchased for the purpose of doing podcasts. You know, Miles has a lot of equipment as well. Seth doesn't have a whole lot, but what he has, I purchased for him. I sent it to him because I wanted him to sound good, and I care about quality. So that stuff just doesn't come for free. And so, yeah, anyway, if you like something, pay for it, because if you don't pay for it, the things you like start to go away. I've been around the internet long enough to see that happen. The thing that I really liked but never paid for went away. Some things that I liked and did pay for went away because not enough people paid for them. Pay for what you like or lose what you like. It's not a threat. I'm not threatening to pack up and go home. But the reality is that as my life gets more busy, as Miles and Seth's life get more busy, as the professional world and the family world, as they start to squeeze in, when you have to start cutting weight, you cut the things that people don't seem to care about. And care, I don't know the emotions that you're going through when you listen to this. I don't know whether you laugh or cry or yell at your phone. Care can only be measured in feedback or payback. So at the end of the year, when I'm looking at those two things, the 50 emails I got in the course of a full year and the couple $100 that I got in the course of a whole year, it sure seems like not a lot of people care.
You know, and that ties in. If you don't have the money, but you can still, you know, it's a lot of what we talked about. How do you get a job in the open source community whenever you're not a programmer and you're just trying to get started? Well, you can be active in the forums. You can, you know, do documentation, stuff like that. Now, don't try to be active in our forums. We're not even active in them anymore. but
because nobody cared.
Right. But you could leave a review on, unfortunately, iTunes, because that's the 800-pound gorilla in the room. You know, you share it out on your social media platform of choice. Send us feedback. Hey, guys, I was listening, you know, and I thought Seth's link was extra stupid today, you know, but just those kind of things that's being part, and that's giving back too. So, you know, hey, you know, money doesn't make the world go round, but, you know, it helps you get around the world. So, but there's other ways if you can't do the money thing. So.
And I'll quote what Door to Door Geek said on my other podcast. If your life is such that you can't afford $1 for a podcast, contact me. I'll help you make some more money in your life. And I mean that. That's not sarcasm. If you're in such a sad state that you can't afford $1 a week for a podcast, somebody needs to help you get a leg up in the world, and I will do that for you. All right. Enough of that. I'm just going to say goodbye. Thanks, everybody, for hanging out. Miles, Seth, as always, thank you for being the consummate professionals that you are. And we'll see you next week for the last time this year, because that's it for this episode of the GeekRant. And remember, pay for what you like.
Toodaloo.
I hope that doesn't come off as preachy, but, you know, it was what was on my mind.
I mean,
that's all right.
It was a little preachy, but, you know, sometimes you got to be preached too. And because it's not something you do every week, you know, I think it's okay.
All right. All right, YouTube people, thanks for hanging out with us. We'll see you later, or you'll see us later, probably, realistically.